Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 22nd. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 6 in the house, and today I am joined by QT. How you doing, QT?
I'm doing so good. I'm so excited to join you today. I was just telling you that watching live feeds and having to take notes and be very intensely watching people is a whole nother level. So I have so much respect for you. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it all.
Yes. QT was telling me that she took notes watching the live feeds like she did when she played The Circle. Uh, which
I
is
use the same pens and everything. I have all my color coded pens. I'm ready to go. Any
yes.
opportunity for me to take notes.
If you did not see QT's season of The Circle, you should go check it out. It was very fun. Most recent season of The Circle.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's AI there too. So if you like Ainsley, you might like my season.
Truly a better implementation of AI by a considerable margin.
Exactly. Oh gosh.
All right. Well, let's talk through yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds because it in terms of the days so far, I feel like it was probably the smallest day in terms of movement. Like there was a lot of potential change that could have happened or could still happen, but in addition to that, it kind of circled back to where it started, and there wasn't any like major blow up drama or anything like that. So um kind of a maintenance day, but still wild because Angela's HOH.
Exactly. I feel like Angela is giving us the same trope of HOH that we've seen in the last few years with Frenchie, Riley a little bit last year, where they get this power and kind of just don't know what to do with it. And everything just feels like haywire. And then all of a sudden it gets back to their original target. So it's like you could have left everything out in the middle.
Yes, but we should still go over it because it could still be relevant as we run through the week. So, if you're watching the video version, I will pull up the graphic here, and we now know specifically what the powers are between Quinn and McKenzie. But I don't feel like writing out the full name over their face, so we will maintain just the arrows for now. Um, we did learn the exact power that Quinn has last night in the episode. It is considerably more powerful than Mackenzie's, and just very powerful in general. So we'll have to keep an eye on Quinn. He essentially has like a 4-week coup d'état, where he doesn't even have to stand up and do it in front of people like Jeff did if he doesn't want to. Um, so we'll see how that goes, and that kind of probably informs how calmly he has been able to play the game so far.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Also, I wonder how production or Big Brother or whatever chooses who gets which power because
Mhm.
it's so unfair, it feels like I don't know if it was a toss up or if they deliberately gave it to Quinn. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's crazy, especially because Mackenzie's power, she has a little bit of power in the sense that she can save herself or save an ally, but even if she saves herself or saves an ally, she doesn't know who America would want to put up. It's impossible to know what's going to happen with that. Where Quinn has all of the power in his hands. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mackenzie's power is like trying to give the opportunity to dunk on Ken Mackenzie, where it's like you use the power, but we're putting up your closest ally, dummy. Whereas Quinn's is just fully powerful, just very powerful.
Right. Yeah. I do feel like it could make for good TV if Mackenzie were to use it on herself and then Matt goes up or something like that. But I don't know. Still not fair.
Well, let's talk through the day. There's one main storyline through the day, and that, of course, is Angela and who she plans to put on the block as a replacement for Lisa once Lisa wins the veto. Or sorry, once Lisa uses the veto. Um, the plan has been Matt, of course, especially after Crazy Eyes. And so the plan has been Matt, but This is Angela we're talking about. And I think it's important to try to once again reset how Angela feels about the house and how she sees things. Um, it's becoming very clear that Angela is somebody, and it's actually not super unique to her in this house. A lot of people are coming up with like very, very confident reads that are completely wrong, but they are like 1000% convinced that they are right. And Angela is just kind of like the queen of that.
No, seriously, in a game where there's so much lying and manipulation and everyone's doing that to each other, to feel 100% confident about stuff, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but like also Tucker feeling confident about who has the power, like just everything is just it makes for good TV because these people are moving based on what they are 100% confident on, even though it's not true. So it's interesting to watch them spiral. But I can't imagine being in the game, like even in the circle, I was never 100% confident on anything. Like there always has to be some doubt. But yeah, like you said, these people are just making decisions based on what they think is 100%
Yes.
true.
Yes. So Angela has convinced herself, and this is part of why she blew up on Matt, and I explained that yesterday, but that she's convinced herself that Matt has everyone in the game. That like everyone is Team Matt, that he is running the house, running the game. And part of her performance the day before was trying to like expose the fact that Matt is running the game and expose the fact that she knows that the people who are pretending to be working with her are actually secretly working with him. And that's why it's a low budget movie performance from them to try to convince her that they're actually working with her. Um, and so she is very much still scared of Matt and the blowback of putting him on the block and potentially him not going home and just in general, like wanting to be in with Matt as much as possible. And so she starts to reconsider her options during the day here on day 6. She's kind of just like, should I put up Matt or should I try to make a deal with him again? And she has found kind of a new confidant to talk things over with, which is Lisa, who has just really risen to prominence as like this very like active game player who is like it's almost as though she's still wearing the veto necklace, just kind of like handing out advice and letting people know how the game works.
Yeah, I feel like part of the problem is that Angela is not only deciding that Lisa's her new confidant, it's that she only wants to talk about Lisa and only wants to use Lisa to make decisions. And the problem with that is that as much as Lisa thinks she knows, I feel like people don't tell Lisa everything. So she doesn't have like the true scope of what's going on in the house. So Angela only leaning on Lisa is just not going to work out. So, yeah. And I think that's why she feels like Matt has all the numbers because Angela's let go of all of her relationships. Like she had a good thing going. And if she were to talk to those people and get them all in a room or even just a few of them, she would see that she has the numbers to get Matt out, but she thinks she doesn't. So then she moves based on that when in reality, she has the numbers.
Yeah, she has actively abandoned nearly every alliance and relationship she has, and she
Yeah.
just keeps finding new people to invest in, because the new people haven't been tainted with connection to Matt yet in her eyes, I think, but, like, but, like, no very few people are. Like, a lot of people most people want Matt out.
Yeah,
She just
exactly.
doesn't
I
see it.
can't. Yeah.
Um So she is also becoming convinced that Lisa has one of the powers. Of course, she knows that Quinn has one. She is beginning to suspect that Lisa has the other one, as does most of the house at this point. In part because of like some details about like how they talked about the competitions. Just in general, I talked a lot in the premiere about how, like, this should not be difficult to figure out. Like, it is very easy to determine who played in what competition based on how much they know about the competition. And then from there, it's like you've narrowed your options down to a very select amount of people, and you can just kind of guess from there. Like, it's not hard. We've seen it on many shows and many seasons of Big Brother, even, that it's very easy to figure out who won a power or whatever. Except for the fact that this cast is awful at it. Like, they are so bad. They're like holding on to little details. All like they should just have an open conversation about the competitions and how they went and talk about details. But for some reason, they're feeling very like basically anybody that didn't win a power is incentivized to ask as many questions and go into as much detail about these competitions as possible. And yet everyone seems very worried about like doing that. They're just going off of like these smaller interactions and general vibes. And so nobody really has any good idea of who won, which is wild.
Yeah, I feel like people are too scared to push, maybe because it's so early on and they're still trying to kind of get a lay of the land. And I feel like if you don't push for like asking those questions in the first day or two, then after that, it does become a little like, why is this person asking me all this? Especially if no one else is. So I feel like people were probably trying to test the waters to see how many questions other people asked, and then no one was asking questions. And then, yeah, now it's just too late. And they all think again that they know who has it. So why ask any questions if you know it already?
Mhm. So people are beginning to really suspect that Lisa has it, in part because of some of those interactions, but also because of the way she's acting. Like, she's just so confident all the time, despite her kind of lack of position, that people are like, well, she must have the power. Like, the reality is she just has the veto, right? Like, but like they feel like she has. When she was nominated, she did one-on-ones with everyone, like she was HOH. Like, they're like, she must have the power. And so there's a lot of suspicion that Lisa has the power. And so this is in part why Angela is talking with her about this as well. And so Angela brings the idea to Lisa, like, what if I didn't put Matt on the block? What if I made some kind of deal with him? And Lisa was like, well, you should probably at least talk to him first and see if he's amenable to the idea of working with you, making a deal, not going on the block. Like, I mean, you basically haven't really spoken to him since the blow up. So before you start thinking about not putting him on the block, you should probably have a conversation.
I feel like Lisa, as much as I roll my eyes to like a lot of the things that she says, she was giving her good advice in this.
Mhm.
Where Angela's just so like off it that she doesn't even realize that she should, if she's not going to put Matt up, she should try to make a deal with him or at least talk to him or something. So I feel like Lisa was giving her sound advice, and you can see kind of Angela calm down. I mean, she seems to have so much anxiety about being HOH, and every single morning she wakes up a little bit flustered. And Lisa just knows how to talk to her to calm her down. I feel like when Lisa talks like this to other people, they kind of see through it and like feel a little bit bothered by her, where Angela really appreciates it. So Lisa's found her audience, but yeah, it's Angela. So.
Yes. So Angela decides, okay, that's a good idea. I am going to go and talk with Matt, have a conversation. So she comes out of the HOH room and she goes down the stairs and she gives Matt kind of like a signal, like, hey, I want to talk to you. And she goes right back upstairs and she waits right outside the HOH room door in the little like loungy area out there, the loft area. And she's just waiting for Matt to come up. She's like behind the corner, kind of staring at the top of the stairs, waiting for Matt to poke his head up. And she's waiting and she's waiting, and it's like, did he see the signal? Like, he's not moving. He's just sitting there. And then I swear it was like 10 minutes, it felt like. He finally gets up and goes to the bedrooms before coming back. And he's like, listen, I don't want to talk to her alone. I don't want to talk to her alone. I need somebody to come with me. And he says this fairly loud, and then heads up the stairs and goes straight to the HOH room door to knock on it before realizing that she was sitting outside of the door behind him. He's like, whoa, oh, you're there. And he's like, did you hear that?
Right.
She's like, yeah, I understand. He's like, yeah, I just don't feel comfortable talking to you alone after what you accused me of, basically.
I feel the best part of it is when he did go back outside to say feels uncomfortable talking to her alone. He asked Brooklyn if she would come talk as like the other mom, and Brooklyn immediately is like, "No, get me out of this. I don't want to be involved." She was like, "I'll do it if it's like a group of people. Let's make it a public thing." And then no one else volunteered. Everyone's just sitting there awkwardly. And then Quinn later says that he was feeling so like uncomfortable, like he wanted to help him as like a people pleaser. And I feel like I'd be the same way. Like if I was just sitting there and no one was throwing this man a bone, I'd be like, okay, I'll go with you and I'll talk to her.
Well, nobody did. So it was like, okay, well, I guess let's just go downstairs and maybe do this publicly. And so they went downstairs, but then it was like, should we do it here? No, that doesn't make sense. They went into the bathroom. Like we could do it in here, and then we're in like sight of people. But in order to do that, they had to prop the door open, so that so that they could be visibly seen having the conversation.
This is the dumbest thing ever. Like, oh my, it's so awkward. Every single place they tried to go. And then he was like, do you want to go outside? She was like, no, I can't sit outside. It's too hot. And so then they go into the bathroom. It was just for what? This was just a mess.
Exactly, and none of their conversation could be heard. Like, they had, like, an hour-long conversation, and,
Yeah.
th this did nothing. They could have been hidden away in the have-not room, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah, no one was even really looking. Like you can see people just passing by through the bathroom and no one was watching, listening, nothing. Didn't matter.
Mhm. So they start having the conversation, and I just to sort of, like, set the stage here in terms of how this conversation felt, while watching it. Um, these are 2 people who probably hear 25% of the words that are said to them by the other person, and are like genuinely like speaking over each other for full sentences at a time, because they just both have things in their heads that they want to say, and they're just waiting for a moment to insert the thing. And then they neither one of them wants to back down once they've started talking. And so it's just a lot of talking at each other and over each other. And that's part of why this conversation takes so long.
I also loved in like the very beginning of the conversation, I was almost scared it was going to get cut off the full thing because Matt all of a sudden just completely turns to the camera, starts talking to his mom and apologizing and like just directly breaking the fourth wall, talking to his mom. And then they cut the feeds. And I was like, are you kidding me for this? Yeah, this conversation was a hard watch for sure.
Yeah, so basically she starts the conversation like, "Listen, I just want to apologize for everything that I said. I brought people into this that I shouldn't have." And he was basically like, "Well, let me no, no, stop, but like let me also say what I wanted to say was that I forgive you also. But I forgive you before you apologize." And she was like, "But I'm also apologizing. I'm apologizing for because I shouldn't have brought your mom into it." And he's like, "Exactly. You shouldn't have brought my mom into it." And that's what I wanted to say, which is that this is why you shouldn't have brought my mom into it. And she's like, "No, no, I know why I shouldn't have brought your mom into it. It's that like she has nothing to do with this. And I get that you really care about your mom." He was like, "Yes, I do really care about my mom. And that's what I wanted to say about my mom is that you should apologize to my mom." And she's like really happy that I'm here. And that's when they're like, "Can we just and she's like, "I'm sorry, Matt's mom. I apologize. I apologize, Matt's mom." And he's like, "Yes, exactly, mom. See, mom, I'm fine. Don't worry about me, mom." And this is the start of this is how this conversation goes.
And it does not get much better than that. Like it keeps circling back to that. Matt goes on tangents like no other. It's Matt, as long as Matt has a body to talk to, he can just go on for hours. It's ridiculous. And about the same thing, it's not like he's switching up the conversation. It like always circles back to the same point.
And so he's just like, and this is what I wanted to tell you, and this is what I would have said on my way out the door before you even apologized. It's not even in response to your apology, but I do forgive you, and I get it. Um, and and this is so like there's a specific kind of, I think, personality slash attitude that maybe if you know it, you know it, but like this idea that like I forgive you, uh, preemptively even, and therefore I am the bigger person, because you have wronged me and I take no responsibility in that. But I'm also forgiving you. And it's it's very like Roddy BB3. Um, so uh so they start there. And so he then goes on about like, okay, and then this is what I wanted to tell you about my mom, and he goes on to sort of tell the story of his mom, which is like, genuinely, I think, a compelling story about his mom, but I think also one that he knows is compelling and feels like this is why you're such a bad person for doing this, because look how awesome my mom is, and how dare you bring her into this. Um, and so Angela is very much like, "Oh my god, like you're so like that's so beautiful. Like your mom seems so great. I'm so so sorry. Like how can we fix this?" And I think at that point Matt feels like I got her.
Mhm.
I'm in. Because the rest of the conversation is wild from him.
Yeah, I do want to say too about the like an hour long of the conversation is about his mom, but like if you really go back to the root of the argument, Angela didn't say that much about his mom, like barely any. Like I don't understand how it keeps getting back to his mom. Like she said the one thing about like your mom's gonna look at this or something. I don't know. But that wasn't like the root of everything she was saying. Like there was much worse things I feel like she was saying, like the crazy eyes of it all and bringing McKenzie into it and talking about his character. But he just always brings back to his mom. And like you said, I think it's because he knows that's such a compelling story that he can use to be like the bigger person and why she's so bad.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see a world where, um, like, depending on the relationship they have, or like the way that she's watching, like if you know that your mom is watching and she gets brought up and you're worried, like, oh my god, she's gonna feel so bad. She's gonna like, what if she thinks that I think this, or like whatever? It's like, okay, now somebody outside that I can't communicate with right now
Mm.
might be feeling a certain way, and how that might be frustrating. But at the same time, he is, from my perspective at least, definitely using this as a sort of piece of leverage to win the argument, so to speak. Uh, so, um, so yes, so I think Matt feels like I got this. Like she is putty in the palm of my hands. And he even starts talking about like, listen, like the thing I'm good at is rhetoric, like I'm just a really good speaker. And like that, those are my strengths. And because he talks about like his childhood and his upbringing and all of that. And so Angela eventually comes out and just says like, "Okay, well, like what can we do? Like, can we move past this? Like how can we move forward?" And Matt's like, "Well, the thing is, Angela, that morning that you went off on me, I was literally about to start talking to you about working in an alliance. Like, I was literally, like, giving Joseph, like, the heads up, like, the look, like, "Hey, we should talk," like, literally in that moment, and then you just ruined everything. So, like, he just keeps pressing his advantage. Like, he feels like he's got her convinced that she did something wrong. He feels like she's apologizing, she feels bad, and now in addition, he's like, and also, it's even worse because you really screwed up, Like, I was really about to work with you. And to be clear, he is, I wouldn't even say half telling the truth. He is telling a kernel of truth in the sense that Joseph had approached him. about working with Angela, and he had talked it over with McKenzie, and they had agreed, well, let's pretend to go along with this alliance, but it will be a fake one that we don't have any loyalty to. And so he is telling the true story that he was planning to eventually accept the offer of alliance, but he was never actually going to work with her or be loyal to her in any meaningful way. He's leaving that part out, of course, and saying, "Well, we were just about to do it, but then, you called me crazy eyes. So like, wow, man."
Yeah, one of my favorite parts too is that Angela just starts breaking down and crying, which she does every time someone says that, like, I was gonna work with you. And then she's just like, and starts crying. And Matt just stands there and he's like, I'll hug you after this. I'll hug you after this. Like, what? This lady's crying in front of you right now. Hug her right now if you want to. But he's such like, he almost like compartmentalizes the conversation because she'll say something and then try to like move on. And he'll be like, well, I want to pause you right there. And then he wants to get out everything that he wants to say. And so it's the same thing with this hug. Like he has to hold the hug for after they talk about all of the personal stuff. Just crazy.
Yeah. Um, so he's talking about that, and it's just like, yeah, you kind of ruined everything. Like I really was gonna work with you. And she's like, well, how about this? Like, what would happen if I didn't put you on the block? What kind of credit does that get for me from you? And Matt is like, well, okay. I mean, next week, if I won, I would definitely think things over. And, I can't promise like that I wouldn't put you up if it was what made sense for my game. But, maybe it wouldn't make sense for my game.
Like, what? This is not how you have this conversation.
It's just like this is how confident he was that he had her in the palm of his hand, that he was like, and again, it's so Roddy BB3
Yeah.
of like, well, Amy, I can't promise I'll vote to keep you over Lisa, even if you use the veto on me to save me and put yourself in that situation. It's just like, what do you mean I can't promise I won't put, you're not even HOH yet. Just make a deal, go back on it. Or just say, like, you know what? Even if it did make sense for my game, I wouldn't do it because I would honor the fact that you saved me. Like, whatever the case may be. Don't be this like I can't that's basically saying I plan to and will put you on the block next week.
No, literally, I can't. Matt, yeah, he just thinks very highly of himself. I feel like as a player and who he has and what he knows about everything in the house. Like he even thinks, honestly, I feel like that if he goes up, he's gonna stay. So to him, I feel like it doesn't matter. Like he can't fumble the bag in his head.
Yeah. And hey, he might be right. Who knows? So we'll see with the AI competition. Um, so so they go back and forth a little bit, and Angela's very much like, I don't want you to go, like even if I did put you up, you would stay. And he's like, yeah, but I feel like it would be great if I didn't go up. And at this point she's kind of just like, oh yeah, yeah, but then I'd have to put somebody else up, and they wouldn't deserve that. Like, and that's like everyone's kind of expecting me to put you up right now. And he's like, well, no, 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 no. Well, what we could do is that you could explain in your speech why you're not putting me up, why I don't deserve to go up, and then they'd have to understand that somebody else needs to go up. And he helps prepare a speech for her that is half apology, half explanation for why somebody else has to take this bullet.
Yeah, this was wild. Planning the speech for her and telling her, like, yeah, you have to apologize, do it publicly, do it in a public setting, and like telling her word for word what she should say. Oh my gosh, I can't with Matt. Just a mess.
So he does that, and she's like, okay, yeah, but then like who? Who would I put up? Like, Matt, I'm gonna need some help. And I will say this, like, for all of Angela's quirks, she is still like a gamer, and she is fairly intentionally, on one hand at least, trapping Matt here, and it's very classic. Like, this is just Big Brother 101. You go to your target, you ask who else, you get them to name some names. Now you have more damning information about them, more dirt on them that you can spread to sink their ship when you do target them. And in a way, Angela's doing like a really tricky version of that, where she really has Matt snowed and convinced that he can safely say some names here. On the other hand, we'll talk about her actual response to it. But I will give her credit for tricking him into giving some names, because she says, I need some help here, Matt. Who would I put up? And he suggests T-Core. Why not T-Core?
Boo.
She's played the game the slowest. And therefore, maybe she should go up, and you could use that as a reason. And Angela's kind of like, I mean, if she agrees to it, but like, I would want you to be there when we talk to her, and they would have to agree. They would have to agree to do it. And he's like, I don't think anyone's going to agree. She's like, yeah, but that's what I would need, is this someone to agree to do it. And he's like, okay, well, I mean, maybe T-Core, what about, we could also, like, Tucker could also work. And she's like, okay, I mean, like, if they agree to do it, then yeah, I don't want to put you on the block, Matt. And so this is kind of how they end the conversation, in this little bit of limbo where everything is forgiven. They're gonna move on. They're gonna clean the slate, and not put Matt on the block, as long as somebody else volunteers, like perhaps T-Core or Tucker.
I feel like this is kind of where it snowballed out, because like you said, Angela had a good thing going, like a good idea to try to place some blame, especially because she's in so much hot water right now that it's good for her to place blame on someone else for who she ends up nominating. But to try to get Matt to do it when he's not even HOH is a stretch. But then the crazy part is she's talking to Matt. So Matt actually would try to do it, where other people would be like, oh, I'm not going to like try to get someone else to be a pawn or talk to them when I don't even have the power. But Matt is actually a person that thinks that he has these master plans that everyone's just going to agree with. So he's going to go on to talk to some people about being pawns. But yeah, I think this is where Angela kind of just lets her mind start spiraling from this whole T-Core pawn situation. And what's wild too is that, to do all of this for what, if you're just going to end up putting Matt on the block in the end?
Yeah. So right after Matt leaves, she kind of mouths like,
I
and
was
so go
I
ahead.
was so happy with that part, because I was snowed too, honestly, by Angela. I thought Angela was putty in his hand, and I was rolling my eyes like, oh my gosh, Angela, you're believing this man, you're falling for it, you're not gonna put him up. And then when she did that, I was like, okay, good. She like has some good sense still.
Well, it reminded me so much of, and this is what I tweeted out, like, that, Matt is trying to be the Brent to Angela's Frenchie. Like, it reminded me so much of when Brent was like, we're gonna take out the next Dan Giesling or whatever it was. Like, this is gonna be better than the funeral. Brent is the big threat. Brent is the target. And then he had one conversation with Brent, and he was like, I actually love Brent, and he's my closest ally now. And that's kind of like, Matt very much thought he was Brent in that moment. And he thought that Angela was Frenchie, not that he probably even knows those terms or names. But Angela was actually not Frenchie, even though she is still behaving Frenchie-like. She's very much Angela. She was very much, I am pretending to be Frenchie, but no, you have not convinced me. However, she is, while it's difficult, it's very difficult for people to convince Angela of anything. It's very easy for Angela to convince herself of things. And so she still believes that Matt has a lot of sway, a lot of influence, and thinks that based on this deal that was made, she will have to follow through with it if one of those people volunteer. And so she goes upstairs to the HOH room, and she is like, wow, wow. And based on the conversation they had, they also talked about the power a little bit, and she's even more convinced that Lisa has the power now. And she now feels like, I know where both powers are, because she knows where Quinn's is, and she knows now that Lisa has the other one. And she's like, this is so good. This is so good. Like, I need to stay in this house. This power is so important and powerful. Like, I could do so much with this. I just gotta stay. I just gotta stay in this house a little bit longer. Like, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Um, she's like, man, I can't believe that. And like, I just hope that Tucker and Tico don't agree to go on the block, because then I'd have to put them on the block. And it's just like, wait. You're losing me. You're losing me.
I can't. These HOH cam talks that Angela does though are so great. Like, I love seeing into her mind and how she's thinking about these things, because it's wild. But yeah, that's the part where I was like, okay, this is kind of like, what are you talking about? Reel it back in. You had a good thing going. Stick on that path. Don't go to the you have to nominate T Court or Tucker. That's like random.
And then it gets really weird, because she is watching the spy cam, and she sees that like T-Core is going and having a conversation with Cam, and I assume that like Matt, like I think she might have saw Matt go in there as well. And it's hard to say because I didn't have the view of the screen she was seeing, but like she, in her mind at least, she sees T-Core, Matt, and Cam go into a room for a few minutes, and she's like, oh, I know exactly what's happening right now. They immediately went to go pitch to T-Core that she should volunteer to go on the block as a pawn. Why is Cam doing this with him? Why is Cam so in love with Matt? He's not. Why is he doing this? Oh, this is so disappointing from Cam. Man. Oh, T-Core's in there right now. I can't believe they're doing this to her. I can't believe they're definitely doing this to her right now. Oh, T-Core, stay strong. Please stay strong. Please don't agree to go on the block. I don't want to have to put you on the block. Please, T-Core, please don't agree to it.
It's so wild. She's like sending good juju over to T-Core. Also, meanwhile, Cam is just like going into his room. Like, he's just a have not going into the room. When he got involved in all of this, I was like, what's going on? And then it didn't help that right after Cam goes into her room, T-Core goes into her room. But yeah, I don't understand why she's like just trying to will T-Core into not doing something that she doesn't want her to do, where it's like, just talk to T-Core. Also, like, right now is such a pivotal time for Angela, because it's the last chance that she has to get any information from people that feel vulnerable, because she's going to have to rename a nominee. So she could have more one-on-ones with people, or just more conversations, game talks with people. But the problem is, like we said in the beginning, she only wants to really like confer with Lisa right now. So she's just letting everything else go. But this could be the perfect time for her to have conversations with everyone and really get a lay of the land and know where people would vote depending on who was on the block. But she's just wasting it looking at the little feed monitor and seeing what she thinks is Cam and Matt telling T-Core to be a pawn.
Yeah, meanwhile, none of that is happening. T-Core has no idea about any of this. And then, as you said, the imagined conversation lasts a few minutes or whatever, and then Cam comes in and he's just like checking in on Angela. How you doing? And she's like, just a little guard, like, oh, I'm doing a little better now. Like, I apologize to Matt. And then T-Core comes in, and she's wondering like, hey, how'd the conversation with Matt go? And she's like, oh, it went well, like we talked it over, and just trying to figure things out. And they like have this like little bit of a chit chat, and then Cam leaves, and then the T-Core and Angela are talking, and then T-Core leaves. And in my head, I'm like, okay, whew, that was close. That was weird, because she really thought that conversation was happening. But clearly now, Cam came in, T-Core came in. it's obvious that they didn't have that conversation. Like T-Core didn't come in saying, "Hey, I just got pitched to go up on the block. What's going on? Hey, Angela, what's happening? Who are you putting up?" She was like super chill. She clearly had no idea what was happening. So now that's solved. As soon as T-Core leaves. Oh my God, I can't believe they did that to T-Core. This poor girl, she's in here shaking. She didn't even have the heart to bring it up to me. Oh my God. She agreed to it. She must have agreed to it. Oh my God.
Gosh. Yeah, she was like, T-Core, she just didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to bring it up to me. Like, what? Also, I feel like it doesn't help that T-Core, when she has conversations with people, she kind of just will like linger around a little bit. And you might get the feeling that like she has something to say that she's not saying, but that's just how she like acts in conversation. But Angela takes that little thing and she's like, oh, my poor T-Core. Like, you could have talked to her right then and there and said, T-Core, I know what they're doing. They're trying to get you to be a pawn. Matt asked me, don't agree to it. Let's have this plan, me and you together, that even if Matt does bring you in and ask you to be a pawn, you'll say no. And then I'll be like, well, then I can't do it. But no, she wants it to happen organically.
Yep. And so, yeah, she's just like, oh man, T-Core, oh, I can't believe you agreed to go up as a pawn. Like, I really don't want you to agree to it. I really don't want to have to put you up. T-Core, come on. I really need you to change your mind.
This is a mess.
So Angela's spinning out because she now believes that T-Core has agreed to go up as a pawn in place of Matt. And in this moment is thinking, all right, I guess T-Core's going up. And she's busy spiraling over that. But in the meantime, we have to kind of like come out of Angela's world and introduce ourselves to Tucker's world, because Tucker is the other major player of the day, weirdly.
I honestly loved it. Like, I'm so happy to see Tucker out here playing. I feel like that's what I love, like, about this first week of Big Brother 2, is that some people, especially people that don't know the game, will go in and kind of be like, I'm playing it slow. I'm not doing any alliances. Don't really want to play much. And that's what we saw from Tucker in these past few days. And then all of a sudden you realize that like the game's being played, whether or not you like it, and it becomes everyone's life. So it's really fun, honestly. I'm having fun seeing Tucker play, especially because he's so animated, and like the hate he has for people is so strong, and then the love he has for other people is so strong. So he's a fun person to watch, honestly.
Yes. So Tucker, we have discovered, does have like a pretty good relationship with Rubina. People feel like they were a little flirty. And it seems like that relationship is pretty good. Rubina, by the way, much more involved in some strategy conversations throughout the day yesterday, which was nice to see, including one with Tucker himself, where they talked about, some things. And so there is a connection between Tucker and Rubina. Tucker also has a thing with Joseph, and he's got some good connections with the other people in the have not room, including Quinn, Cam, and Chemo. So that's kind of like where Tucker sits in all of this. But after his conversation with Rubina, Matt let him know, gave him a heads up. Hey, Tucker, just so you know, just to get ahead of this, I had a conversation with Angela and I suggested you go up as a pawn instead of me. Hey, it's just because like I know you'd crush that AI arena comp. And Tucker was like, oh yeah, I'd crush it. I'm that dog. Hold on, let me be a little more Tucker. I'd do that, man. Like, I'd crush that. I don't have the accent. I'm sorry. Maybe later. But like Tucker's like, okay, yeah, totally. And then he goes upstairs after Cam has left his conversation with Angela and is talking to Cam in the have not room. And he's like, Cam, can you believe it? Can you believe this Matt guy? He comes up to me. He's like, hey, yo. Hey, bro, you should go up on the block as a pawn. And of course, I was like, yeah, I got that dog in me. Yeah. But like, I don't want to do that. And Cam's like, No, of course you don't. Nobody wants to go on the block. He's like, exactly. Like, what does he think he's gonna suggest me as a pawn? Like, are you kidding me? Like, screw this guy. Like, this guy's gotta go. Like, we gotta vote him out, yo. Like, come on.
Honestly, Tucker being so actively upset towards Matt, and I mean, Matt kind of just dug his own grave, right? Because telling Tucker that he brought his name up to Angela really ignites this thing in Tucker to feel like, okay, now that I have proof that Matt is coming against me, technically, even though Matt's saying it's just a pawn or whatever, he can use that and then talk to other people about why we need to get Matt out, specifically Angela. So I was happy that this all happened because I feel like it started to shift the target back to Matt.
Very much so. So Tucker is like very anti-Matt now. Wants Matt to go up, wants Matt to go home. And he also has his own theory on the power. He's like I've been thinking, here's the thing that Cedric and Chelsie, they don't get to vote because they're downgraded. So wouldn't that mean that the upgrade is 2 votes? Right? Right? Cam's like, wow, yeah, that's really smart. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, yes, exactly. And so he's like, and I know Joseph has the 2 votes. And he also knows at one point that Matt has the 2 votes, but it's unclear to me how much he actually thinks that's true and how much he just is saying it because he wants Matt to go. But he is convinced that Joseph has the 2 votes because of the way that he knows that he caught Joseph like in a lie slash basically like, oh, you definitely played the upgrade comp and you're lying about it. Therefore, you have the power, and also the power is 2 votes. I'm like so convinced, bro.
And Cam is trying to be like reasonable, like, okay, but what if not? And Tucker's like, no, I know for a fact. I know 100%. Like, does not, no doubt in his mind. And it's just crazy to not only feel like you know 100% who has the power, which you don't, because no one's told you that they do, but then to also feel like 100% you know what the power is. Like, what the? It's just too much, Tucker. I like a lot of what Tucker's doing, but this part is really, and this is what he uses to kind of guide him through the day, is knowing the fact that Joseph has 2 votes.
They start counting votes for like, can we get Matt out? And he's like, all right, here are the votes. It's Joseph with 2 votes.
Joseph.
It's me. It's Cam. It's it's Key. No, it wouldn't be Chemo necessarily, but like Quinn would be on board. Like Brooklyn. And he's like, "Hey, we have enough votes with the 2 votes. And Cam's like, well, I mean, I'd really want to make sure that it's 2 votes if we were relying on the 2 votes. He's like, nah, it's good, yo. Um, and so he's just like, Matt's got to go. And he's very convinced, and he's very convinced about the power, and he wants to talk to Angela to make sure that Angela is on board for Matt to go. So he goes and he talks to Angela, who's busy talking to Chemo. So Chemo is there. And he tries to explain all of this to Angela, like, hey, I know what the powers are. I know who has them. It's Joseph, and he's like, I think Matt has a power. I think he's got 2 votes. And so we got to get Matt out. We got to get Matt out. And Angela's like, yeah, but here's the thing. I think T-Core is volunteering to go up on the block. He's like, what? She's like, yeah, Cam was in there with Matt trying to convince her, and she agreed to it. And he's like, I was just talking to Cam. What do you mean? Cam is on board to take Matt out. And she's like, no, Cam is like his number 1 ally. And he's like, no, I don't think so. Like I'm so convinced like Cam is on board. And she's like, yeah, but I just don't know. I just think T-Core, she's just so scared, and I think she agreed to this. And so I'm just not sure it's gonna work. I'm just like, no, we need to take the shot at Matt.
This is wild because both people are talking as if they 100% know what they're saying. So, like you said, Tucker saying, like, yeah, Joseph has the 2 votes, whatever. And then Angela kind of is just sitting back. She's like lounging on the chair and she's like, no, but this is what really happened. Cam and Matt are making T-Core be a pawn. Tucker's like, no, literally just talked to Cam. She was like, no, I literally just saw Cam go in the have not room. Like, I can't. But it does start to get her wheels turning, I feel.
Yes. And so you then think, okay, well now surely
Surely.
she'll just talk to T-Core and it'll get cleared up. Right? And hey, T-Core comes over.
That's
It's
the
like, okay.
best part of Angela's delusion is every time she's delusional about T-Core comes around. But then Angela uses that to make it like, oh, T-Core's coming around because she knows.
T-Core comes over. They have a conversation about nothing. T-Core leaves. And just like, she's so scared. She's so nervous. She keeps coming and talking to me. But she can't bring herself to talk about it. And you know what? Unless she does, I'm not going to do it. And this is where it's like, it starts to turn where it's like, okay, now instead of saying nothing is confirming, it's like maybe she agreed, but she will need to say it to me before I put her on the block. And so, you know, Tucker has broken through a little bit in the sense of like, we should be doing this. And so now she is feeling a little bit more like, okay, I will need some confirmation that she's actually going to. Not that she's actually willing because she believes she's willing, but she's basically saying, I will need to hear it from her myself if I'm going to do the thing I don't want to do. And so at the very least, this should be the saving grace for T-Core because she will, of course, never say it to Angela because she still doesn't know that it even exists.
By the way, so we weren't able to see when Matt and T-Core and Cam or whatever did go into the have not room. There was no cameras in there, right?
No.
Like feeds. So we don't even know 100%. Like I'm still wondering, did Matt bring it up? Because Matt did bring it up to Tucker about the pawn thing. So did he bring it up to T-Core or no?
I mean, listen, it's certainly possible that there was some kind of conversation in there, but like, given, like, clearly T-Core has not agreed to go up on the block as a pawn.
Right.
She would have said it to someone. She hasn't said anything to anyone about that conversation. It also would have been weird if Cam had been in there and involved in the thing because I don't think Cam knew anything about it either at that point. So it's just like, I think in Angela's head, Cam is like lockstep with Matt. And while Cam is in an alliance with Matt, the barbershop, that is not like a very real alliance at this point. So either way, T-Core still hasn't said anything. Angela is going to go back and talk to Tucker later. And Tucker again tries to convince her, like, it's got to be Matt. Like, we got the vote. Like, we can take Matt out. And this is still kind of like news to Angela. The idea that Matt would actually leave. She's like, but he has so many people. And he's like, no, we got the votes. And he also, by the way, starts going off on Lisa again, who is Angela's new best friend. And so I don't know how she's taking this, but he's like, yeah, it's like he's the male version of Lisa. You know what I mean? Like, it's the male version of Lisa, and we know how bad Lisa is. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, no, I can't wait to make her a have not. She might just quit the game at that point. And Angela's like, I don't think so. I feel like she's pretty gung ho, you know? He's like, no, 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 no. You don't even know. She's like, what does she do? He's like, she like made some shrimp and left it out. And then they ate the shrimp like 3 days later. Like, come on. Oh my God. And she's like, oh wow. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't eat the shrimp, I guess.
This is funny. I love Tucker when he starts ranting about the people that he doesn't like, specifically Lisa, sometimes Matt. Yeah. He's hilarious. Also, we saw in the episode yesterday that this rivalry started very early. Like as soon as Tucker said he was a chef, Lisa was up and on it. So I feel like from then he was like, I got to show them who the better chef is. And it seems like a lot of people are not liking Lisa's cooking. So
Yeah.
so much so that they think she's not a chef. Like oh my gosh, I feel so bad. Imagine coming out of the house as a celebrity chef, and then you see that everyone in the house is like, oh, her cooking's actually really bad. Yikes.
Listen, if you're gonna claim to be something, you should be able to back it up. So things have essentially come back around to Matt as the replacement nominee. But in the meantime, he still feels like he's made significant progress and that he's probably not going to go up on the block. In particular, not the T-Core thing. He thinks that maybe T-Core will go on the block, but also, even if T-Core doesn't go on the block, Tucker is still pretending to Matt that he's willing to go on the block as a pawn. And so Matt's like, I did it. I'm not going on the block. So there's a decent chance that Matt is now going to be blindsided by the replacement nominee nomination, despite the fact that just 2 days prior, he was being called a brat and crazy eyes by the HOH.
This is going to be absolutely epic. A blindside. We love to see it.
Wild stuff.
If it happens, hopefully it happens. There's still some hours left.
It's very true. Very true. So that's basically the main story of the day, was this kind of like weird, twisty set of circumstances where for a moment there it looked like T-Core might go on the block because Angela imagined that she volunteered. But we are back around to where things were before. In the meantime, there was a bit of other movement here and there. I think the Pentagon alliance still remains the strongest thing, mostly because it's again full of fans of the show for the most part, and people who like sort of recognize that are like kind of level-headed and recognize the strength of just like being level-headed and just like committing to a thing. They keep reinforcing like, hey, we might be going in other alliances, we might be making other relationships, but Pentagon is the priority. Pentagon is the priority. We keep hearing that over and over. Pentagon is the priority. Now, how true is that, especially for people like Quinn and Brooklyn? That's potentially another story, but it right now is definitely the strongest bonded alliance, which is kind of saying a lot about the season, but still very powerful at this point.
Yeah, I'm really liking all the players in the Pentagon too, because of what you said. They're very level-headed. I feel like Chelsie kind of reminds me of Mimi from last year, where she even had a conversation last night where she was like, "Oh my gosh, people are just being idiots. Like, why can't everyone just stick to a plan?" And it was giving very much Mimi in the storage room last year, like ranting about people doing too much. So I feel like Chelsie is doing a really good job. But yeah, I like all of the things that the Pentagon is doing. I also feel like because this first HOH has been so chaotic, similar to like BB23 when Frenchie was first HOH and things were just all over the place. I think the second HOH is really going to set the tone for the season and maybe start to solidify more alliances and stuff. Hopefully, if we get a good person in there. But I feel like right now there's so much movement because everything is so all over the place that it'll probably start settling next week, hopefully.
I agree. I think the second HOH is likely going to be the one that really solidifies the structure of the house. For those asking in the chat, the Pentagon is Brooklyn, Cam, Cedric, Chelsie, and Quinn. With Cam, Cedric, and Chelsie being the core, as they call themselves. Still very, very strong, very powerful. And that's really like where the house is going. Kenney is just still kind of on his own thing about the situation that he's in and how we finally saw in the episode the thing that he's been complaining a lot about, which is like, we could have eliminated the Angela from the HOH competition. We didn't. And so how dare she put me up on the block? I could have won that competition. And he talks to Matt about like, can we get somebody else to volunteer? He really doesn't want Matt to go up on the block because he, like Angela, believes that Matt is, in control of a lot of things in the house, and that if Matt goes up on the block, Matt will definitely stay. Which again, at this point, it may or may not be true. Not the running the house thing, but the staying thing, because who knows with this house at this point. But basically, he is in a lot of trouble. If Matt goes on the block and Matt wins the AI arena competition, and it's Kenney versus Chemo, Kenney right now would be a slam dunk to be evicted. If it's Kenney versus Matt, it's a little more complicated. I think right now Matt is a decent amount more likely to be evicted. But again, the barbershop, whether it's fake or not, is still some amount of incentive to keep Matt for some of those people. Especially given the fact that like they might have to expose themselves with the vote if they vote against Matt. But it's hard to imagine a world where it's just so deeply within their interests to vote Matt out that it's hard to imagine that they would actually vote out like Kenney over Matt at this point. Um, but still, plenty of time until Thursday. So the other question is, as Mishy in the chat is asking, McKenzie. She's got a veto. If Matt goes on the block, could she use the veto to save Matt, and then America would choose the replacement nominee? Is that possible? At this time, I would personally say, if I had to guess, I would say she probably doesn't use it.
Also, is
Go
she
ahead.
able to use it after if Matt's a renom, or does it have to be someone who's originally on the block?
That's a good question. I would assume that as long as the veto ceremony is running, she's
Okay.
allowed to use it. But sometimes they do specify an order of operations. So she might need to like she might need to decide ahead of time. She might need to go first. There's a few different potential rules here. Okay, it's Mara says the AI said it can be used at the end of the veto meeting, so that's maybe that's what it is. But um, so theoretically, I think she could use it on him. They have talked about it, and sort of like the consensus was probably don't use it if he goes up. This was when he was like a little more convinced he might go up. I think in part because it was like, well, I'll probably come down and I could probably stay anyway. Don't waste it. And also like don't, like use it on yourself. So I feel like the guess for me would be that she doesn't use it, but you never really know, especially if she's having to decide in the moment, like if she feels like this is a hit and like he's blindsided once again, and that he might actually be voted out, and I don't want to lose an ally, and I only have this for 4 weeks. Maybe, but honestly, like I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. It's week 1 to use the power, especially if she had to do it publicly, which I assume she does. Um, eh, you can use this on yourself. Like you have 4 weeks of guaranteed safety. You just got through 1 week so now you have 3 weeks where you still have like an immunity idol, basically. Like use it for yourself. Matt is not really helping your game all that much this early. I mean, listen, I'm very much a fan of like protect your allies, keep your numbers. I do think that's important. I do think that if she could keep Matt, that would be great. However, Matt this early going out on a limb this far to protect him, I'm just not sure it's the play right now. And so I do feel like she will likely not use it, but you really just don't know for sure.
Yeah, I feel like she won't, especially because she's trying to kind of disassociate herself from the showman's theory of her and Matt. So I feel like that would just kind of solidify things if she did use it. So I don't think so either.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Anything else from the day that we should get into here? QT, anything that
Oh,
you flagged?
there's one thing, this is so random, but I feel like so I'm really liking Chelsea's game. I did not expect to like her so much. But there's one thing that I feel like is really helping her. This is just my little like conspiracy theory. Her sore throat and the fact that she has to whisper all the time. I think it helps her in a few ways in that one, whenever she's talking to people, she's whispering. So it feels a little bit more like intimate and like she's having like a private conversation with them. And then it almost forces them or makes them feel like they have to whisper too. So then it's easy to get into game talk because of that. And then also, if she's talking to someone and whispering about like something that actually is game and someone else walks in, it doesn't look suspicious that she was whispering because it's her voice. It's just something I noticed and I really like it for her, but obviously it's not going to last. I mean, her voice is already starting to get better, but it is something interesting that I've noticed. I feel like kind of helps her in these conversations.
There also has been a somewhat interesting, I think, unintended side effect of Chelsie and Cedric not having a vote this week, specifically for Chelsie, because uh, I think, and I don't think this is always going to be the case in this kind of situation, because again, if you don't have a vote and you're in this position, you're going to be less valued. But Chelsie has been able to position herself as a valuable player, someone that all sides of the house are courting to join their side. And because of that, she's now able to leverage the fact that she doesn't have a vote to be actively pushing for things, because she will never get caught in the vote, at least with that. So, like we talked about the barbershop and how the people voting within the barbershop might get caught. Like, say Matt goes up and some of the votes from the barbershop are needed in order to send Matt out. That's going to signal to McKenzie and Leah, like, hey, our alliance isn't any good. And ideally, they could continue the facade of the barbershop just minus Matt because they're in a much stronger position after that. But if they get caught doing that, that's no good. However, for somebody like Chelsie and somebody like Cedric, they don't have a vote anyway. And so they can't get caught voting against Matt. And so Chelsie is feeling very free to just actively align with Matt while also pushing for him to go this week, because she knows that she won't have to be the one to make the vote to take him out.
That's so true. I didn't even think about that. It's almost like a blessing in disguise for Chelsie and Cedric. They're able to just like play these free games. And I feel like that's what they're doing. Like once they realized they weren't going to be targeted for this, they were able to just kind of go and have conversations with everyone. And even with Cedric, I was like getting a little bit confused on if he was actually on Matt's side or not, because when
Yeah.
he talks to Matt, it's very like he's keeping Matt. But then on the other, I mean, not he doesn't have a vote again, so it doesn't matter. But on both sides, he kind of makes them feel very much like he's with them. So I wasn't sure which side he actually would pick.
The vibes I got from Cedric were that, like, he is being kind of drawn in by, like, Matt in the barbershop, but Chelsie is very much like, "No, no, no, we're not doing that. We're not going with Matt." And so, and given the fact that he doesn't have a vote, I think he doesn't have to take a strong stance right now. So we will see. I do think that, like, getting Matt on the block is sort of the first hurdle at this point. But the vote is still theoretically up in the air. I think that there are a lot of discussions to be had with the actual people who are running the game, which is like the sort of like middle group of players who are all loosely aligned. And they will decide, like, do we actually want to turn our backs on Matt, or do we want to make like a safer play and just take out Kenney? And again, Chemo has been consistently safe for the majority of the week so far, but that does not mean that things can't turn in an unfortunate set of circumstances on him at some point. So I do not think that the votes will be locked in by any means until at least later today, or maybe even in the next coming days.
Yeah. I also think it's funny with Chemo that Chemo's just in conversations, not saying a word, and people won't even be talking to him. And he just like kind of sits there. But I feel like he doesn't have much gameplay yet, but he's still not being targeted. Maybe that's the reason why. But I feel like with this cast in general, it seems when people are having private conversations, someone will walk in and just kind of stay. And then those two people will continue to have the conversations. Like they don't try to shift it very often, which is an interesting, like, thing to have in the house.
They're still learning, I think.
Yeah.
The topic changes and
Yeah.
stuff like
And, like,
that.
actually doing some like, if you're in the gym talking, like, maybe ride the bike and not just, like, sit there with a blanket on like you're not actually working out.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think just in general, what was interesting about this day is that a lot of these power players who do wield a lot of influence kind of took the day off. Like I think after the previous day and all of the stuff with Angela, they were just like, well, Angela's clearly going to put up Matt. We don't have to like, nobody really wants to associate with Angela too much anymore. They don't want to tell her many things. They don't want to like have to do more than necessary to keep themselves off the block. And they think she's going to put up Matt anyway. So they've all just kind of backed off, which left the power playing of the day to players like Lisa and Tucker, which is so wild. But it's essentially what happened yesterday. So it was such a strange day. We will see what happens today with the veto ceremony if Angela does go through with the Matt nomination, and then how he reacts to that, and then how the campaign goes from there, and what kinds of decisions are made about the vote. Knowing that the AI arena is going to take place at the last second means that you need plans and contingency plans, and so I imagine that the easy thing is it's Matt. If it's not Matt, it's Kenney. But you never know.
Yeah, we'll just
All
have to
right,
wait and see.
all right. Anything else, QT?
I think that's it. I'm excited to see today what goes on. Today's the renom ceremony.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
We should
Okay.
get the veto ceremony probably soon, but who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm excited to see the aftermath of all of that. It's going to be another fun day, I feel like, on feeds.
All right. Well, stay tuned. The slop is going to be on tonight for the patrons. If you want to get sloppy with Chappelle and Rob. Tomorrow night, we will have the first roundtable of the season. We'll be back with an update tomorrow morning to let you know what's happening with the results of the veto ceremony and everything. And I'll be back on Twitch streaming, watching episodes, hanging out, having a good time. So find me over there. We also talked House of the Dragon last night. Had another great episode of that. Talking to Scripted TV over on We Know Scripted TV. We'll be doing the Tastemakers. We got the Getaway we're doing right now, which is a very fun social strategy show that you should check out. So lots of stuff going on here in the world of RHAP. QT, what do you have going on?
Same things as usual, just posting on all my social medias at Corey Tyler, QUORITYLER. I've been tweeting everything, all my thoughts about Big Brother. So if you care to know any of that, you can follow me on Twitter.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.